for those not paying attention, the Bitcoin price peaked at 125K. It's 80 something now, right? So not some like disastrous crash like past cycles, but certainly down. And then juxtapose that with gold, silver, copper, which are
Everything
just
else.
like all these commodities which are taking off, which just adds to anxiety, I think, among Bitcoin bulls or crypto bulls. So then people are seeking explanations. Why is this happening right now?
Right.
So we've talked about quantum a lot. How much of an impact is that having? In early October, there was some huge leveraged crypto explosion that there's rumors and maybe with some data and substance behind it that people got blown up there, people who were trading crypto but are also have large Bitcoin bags, and they had to reach into those Bitcoin bags to cover their losses. How much of an impact was that? And then you have that tweet.
I got the tweet up. Yeah. I mean, it's too long to read the whole thing, but the concept is, question poses, why has Bitcoin had a down year? 2 words, crypto contagion. So it's basically kind of like you said, they have to reach into their Bitcoin bags to subsidize losses and other things. Not a silent IPO. It's not OG selling. It's because crypto is dying and Bitcoin is a correlated asset. So crypto and Bitcoin have a lot of correlation because people who are in crypto often also understand that Bitcoin is interesting, and so they often hold it.
But OG selling, that's another narrative that's been posited. Then there's also, so much hype around AI.
Yep.
Things are moving to AI. I mean, we talk about AI on the show all the time. We say like none of us are using it enough, right? So we're AI bulls. But then like miners, we talked about that on the show. Like miners are dropping Bitcoin, moving to AI, or adding AI along with Bitcoin. So like sentiment feels kind of at best meh, if not negative right now.
I would say bad.
And bad. And then and then another narrative is like Bitcoin has been positioned, the strongest narrative is digital gold, and it's now revealing it lost because gold is taking off
so far.
Yeah, well, I'll get to my.
That's the narrative,
This is not my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the narrative that
Right.
I'm seeing and hearing, and I think you guys have too. In actually, I think it's kind of funny. We not to toot our own horns on the show, but we're talking about gold to Bitcoin price long before the rise from like 3,000 to 5,400 per ounce of gold. Like it was last summer we started talking about that, and we said it. Well, first of all, it's a little surprising that over a 4-year period, it's cherry picked time period, but that the Bitcoin gold price hadn't changed in 4 years. Again, cherry picked time frame, but still, like I think our own mentality and probably most people in Bitcoin just think it's like you could choose any time frame and Bitcoin blows gold away, and that's not true. And that was when it was around, I think, 3,000 an ounce. Now it's like 5,400. We should look up what the price is now. It would be dramatically different. But in any case, lots of negativity I see, or like reaching for explanations. Right. We talked about, I think, gold in the last show or one of the recent shows. I don't view that as a concern whatsoever with respect to the digital gold narrative for Bitcoin.
Yeah,
because the new big buyers of gold are like Poland's central bank and other countries' central banks.
India.
I think it's unrealistic that in 2026 that all these central banks from fairly large countries and economies that they've been so orange pilled that they buy Bitcoin instead of gold. I just think it's not mature enough yet.
Even if there's a few people who are responsible for the treasury of those countries, they probably don't have an operational way to handle it.
Yeah.
Where they do have
exactly
decades,
so it's
maybe centuries
unrealistic
of how to handle gold.
Millennia.
I don't view this as like, oh, Bitcoin lost to gold, so the narrative has been shattered. It's like, no, we're just not there yet maturity wise. It's still to be determined whether it will win over those types of use cases. But gold's rise is because of that buying. I don't view that as shattering that narrative. I think another really important point too, we talk so much about Bitcoin, like daily use, and use it as a currency, and use it for AI payments and retail payments on here. Sort of getting back to like the white paper title, like currency,
Yeah.
right? We talk a lot about that. We care a lot about that, and we shouldn't lose sight of that narrative either. I mean, like while I fully believe in the digital gold store of value narrative, value of Bitcoin, of course, it's been 99% of the narrative the past like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Spending has not been,
Right.
probably the past 8 years. Like spending didn't work out in 2013 and 2014, and then it just like hasn't been part of the narrative since then. There's all kinds of reasons why we covered it in the show, but a lot of those reasons why have been solved or substantially improved. There's still a bunch of hurdles in front of us, but I think what we can do now, I mean, keep knocking down those hurdles, but just and we're trying to get the word out, but others, more people and people with broader reach get the word out about that. This is an important narrative too for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin isn't, its success is not solely based on digital gold narrative.
Right. And I actually have a friend who's very obsessed with narrative, and he's like, what's up? Like, gold's winning this narrative. We really got to ask ourselves some hard questions about that. And my response to him is basically like, yes, narratives matter and they're very important, but you want to be ahead of the next narrative, not chasing down the last narrative. And so, you think about, I mean, obviously Google had a huge run up last year, but before that, everybody said 10 blue links, that's dead. OpenAI wins the future. And now people are like, oh, actually, no, 10 blue links. Then there's also this AI thing and all these chips. So I think the narrative actually is very quick to change when a new meme takes hold.
Yeah.
And
memes rule the world, baby.
Memes rule the world. And so do you want to be like late to the previous narrative, or do you want to be early to the next narrative? Early to the next narrative is always the right answer. It's just hard to figure out exactly what that is.
So I agree with all of that. With some caveats, I think the one thing that maybe I'm asking myself some hard questions, and the answer to the hard question I'm asking is I have not been bullish enough on AI. And if you're really singularity build, which increasingly by the day I am, then it's like, it's like people used to ask me, it's like, what's the next San Francisco when we were dying in 2020? I was like, obviously San Francisco. They're like,
Right.
But the Bitcoin community, one day it's going to be somewhere else. I'm like, it's obviously going to be San Francisco.
Right,
yeah. And so when people are like, what's the next AI? I'm kind of like, well, AI, because with the recursive loops and all the energy and infrastructure that needs to get built, like, I think we're just at the beginning of it. Now, having said all that, I don't think that's necessarily bad for Bitcoin. I think it could be really good for Bitcoin. I think you could go either way with it. On the one hand, the risk in my mind is, there's black swan risk. Like if AIs really take off and they're off in mobile, like we think they're going to use Bitcoin. That's very likely. It seems like they are so far, but like we also don't know what they might come up with on their own. It's just an unknown. So that's a risk. At the same time, if we can get them using Bitcoin very quickly, and it seems like there's people working on that today, that could be a huge run for Bitcoin, where it's just all of a sudden now, hey, Bitcoin is the currency of the AIs. It's about to take off. I do think, though, and Barris Wheel, shout out to our homie Barris. I agree with this, that people seem to be getting distracted by the perceived opportunity cost. I think that's real. I think if you have investors who were early and saw Bitcoin as this is, the next big curve to bet on, and they're seeing the curve right now and they're like, okay, we have a lot of vertical left in AI. I mean, you have limited resources and you have to pick which one to put it on. To me, that's the explanation that resonates the most.
Also, the trust the curves is I agree with, but you also have to understand which curves you're trusting and how you're expressing.
I was gonna
like
poke
is it
at Max.
just buy everything that claims to be an AI company?
If you trust the curves, Bitcoin's down and silver's and gold is up. So
are you buying silver?
Like sell your
copper?
Bitcoin for the stuff going up. So
I mean,
you got to know which curve to trust.
But I want to be clear. I'm not just saying trust the curves, bro. Like I'm actually being pretty specific about this. I'm saying energy and computation and intelligence is a function of those. And so if you do trust,
but like DK said, you have to know which curves to trust.
And I'm being very clear. Like I have said this before, and I mean this. I don't know if I would ever invest in a startup, a software startup ever again. Honestly, I think the companies that matter are Anthropic, XAI and Elon Co, and Google, and probably OpenAI, and that's probably it. And NVIDIA, we talked about that last time. And then I think all the energy infrastructure builders.
So AMD and Intel are off the table.
I mean,
I mean,
maybe, but like
They
it's
could
just
argue they're AI company.
okay.
AI
Fine. I mean, if you want to add like
TSMC.
if you want to add like the tier B on there, they're going to be fine too. But like, if you just want to maximize returns, tier A is where I would bet. But fine.
But it's still
And
subjective.
the energy, it is subjective. I'm just giving my perspective. But my point is, you know, am I buying silver or gold? I think silver, a big part of the run up is it's necessary for solar panels. And if
Okay,
you're super
someone
solar
says
filled,
it's down 28% today. So I literally,
sure, but look at it over the last 6
I
months.
literally had a call from someone yesterday saying like, I'm thinking about selling all my Bitcoin. I would talk to a friend and I'm sell all my Bitcoin and buy like gold and silver because it's going up. And I'm like, that is just crazy. I mean, I basically made the point you made. It's like, you know, history doesn't necessarily repeat, right? I mean, basically, what's your thesis, right?
Yes,
That's what's important.
I agree.
Don't make these sudden like momentum buys or sells.
I want to be very clear. There's a big difference between the momentum, and it's hard, right? And you want to think about this as rationally as possible. Like there's just like, hey man, like, you know, it's 2017 again, like we're up all the way to 20K. Let's keep going. Then we crash, right? I think there's a fundamental difference between do you believe this is momentum and it's just going to come down? And maybe there's like some medium ground where it is short term, or do you really believe we're at the early stages of a takeoff and the takeoff is about to go vertical? And like, you know, again, you can debate like, what do you do if that's the case? But, and I'm not saying Bitcoin is a bad thing. There's a very, very good case that Bitcoin is one of the only assets that does well in that world where there's AI takeoff. But like, I think it really comes down to like what I'm noticing in the world is there's a bifurcation. There are people that are crazy AGI pilled. Most of them are the ones actually developing the models. And then there's people that are not yet. And that's what I see as a split.
Just another anecdote. A person called me who has a fairly good amount of Bitcoin holdings, and they're talking about buying copper.
Right.
And I'm like,
do you even know why?
I don't know the thesis.
Well,
other
it's
than
same
it's
as
gone
silver.
it's gone up
It's gone up.
6x. I think I looked it up. It's
Okay.
gone up 6x the past few years or whatever. I guess that's the reason why. But I mean, obviously, I mean, these commodities like copper or silver, I mean, clearly they are valuable. They're used.
Yeah.
But they're not really, they don't really have, or in my opinion, they should not have a monetary
Correct,
premium.
yeah.
Well, and I don't know actually, I don't even really know how much monetary premium they have, but they're clearly valuable in that they have these industrial uses, commercial uses. So if demand supply gets out of whack, you want to, and you know, supply is exceeding or demand exceeding supply, owning it can make sense. But but it's just first of all, it's a very different investment than gold or certainly Bitcoin. Gold has some industrial use, but it's primarily monetary premium. The other's much less monetary premium. Bitcoin is pure monetary premium because it has no
industrial use cases.
Yeah. And so first of all, it's very different investment. But then the second thing I'd ask is like, okay, looking at future TAM and compare like I actually think the run up in gold is phenomenal news for Bitcoin because gold's gone from about 10 trillion to almost $40 trillion.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
it's like I mean, I haven't checked the price today, but you know, it hit like $37+ trillion.
Which is like we
were looking at like, okay, now all of a sudden, I mean, it used to be this sort of like, I mean, you know, Bitcoin's a sideshow, but like gold is definitely a sideshow compared to like the bond and stock market. But we are looking at US bond market and gold is almost the same size as the US bond market.
Wow.
It's over half the size of the US stock market.
Wow.
So like they're now comparable. I mean, if it goes to 10K, then it's the same size, right? So that's.
Do you warm up to the idea of not holding S&P 500 index?
What? Oh, what? Oh,
I'll let you guys discuss this. I'll be right back.
I still don't understand that argument.
Drops the bomb, walks out.
I still recommend people who want stock exposure and to keep it simple, just buy the S&P 500 index. Yes,
I'm it's on like vibes with this one.
Yes, very, very low fees, very, very good tax properties, and you get diverse exposure.
There we go.
I'm not here to shill
you guys
stock indexes. But my point is, I think it's gold depreciation is good news. It's good news for Bitcoin because first of all, for the digital gold narrative, what's the TAM? Well, it always used to be, well, gold's the easiest explanation to someone who's not orange pilled yet from an investor standpoint has always been digital gold. And it's like, well, it's 10 trillion. So if we go from 100 billion to 10 trillion, you can get, so now it's 40 trillion, right?
Yeah.
And because then Bitcoin hit 2 trillion, and it's like, well, it could still 5x from now. And then all of a sudden, like Saylor and others are inventing new TAMs, like, oh, it's going to take over the entire economy and be $1 trillion, or sorry, not a trillion, but like 1,000 trillion, a quadrillion, right? There's ways you can draw the entire economy. I've seen real estate estimates from 300 to 600 trillion. So if it's 600 trillion, maybe you can get to 1,000 trillion. So yeah. So then, okay, how are we going to 10x or 100x Bitcoin? Oh, it takes over the entire economy. But just sticking to the simple explanation, which I think find the most plausible and believable, is gold. Well, now 40 trillion and gold and Bitcoin's under 2 trillion. That's over 20x. So is copper going to 20x?
Well, I want to make 2 points in here that I think are very clear. So again, you said Bitcoin is very different than the metals play. The gold, has some industrial use cases, but Bitcoin is pure monetary premium. I want to be clear, like the reason one would be buying into the metal stuff, absent just like FOMO momentum, which is certainly part of it, is if you listen to someone like Elon saying he's going to put hundreds of gigawatts of compute in space in 3 years. And I know sometimes Elon doesn't always hit his time frame, but let's say he's even directionally right. Then you look, you say, what might one need to build hundreds of gigawatts of compute? And you go work backwards. Silver for the solar panels. What's in the batteries? I think that's like the use case of what's happening now is industrial. That has nothing to do with Bitcoin.
You may find silver out there.
Well, and so I think, and then if you want to go to the next level, right, then you say, okay, well, if this is always the reason that Bitcoin was proposed, is like, we're going to have asteroid. If you really believe in the singularity and all that's going to happen quickly, then you're just like, okay, we'll just go either, mine the gold and silver from asteroids, or we'll figure out alchemy and we'll just make it here on Earth. And like, if we have free energy, then like in theory, that should be possible. So I think that then brings you back to Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is the perfect store of value monetary premium. But time frame matters. Like, are we talking, is this 6 months? Is it 6 years? Like, that's a question. And then I think, I would be reticent not to ask. I think we as a community, the real question I always ask myself if we're evaluating the Bitcoin thesis is, has anything fundamentally changed? The fact that precious metals are popping, irrelevant. The fact that all this other stuff, irrelevant on a long time frame. The question I ask myself is there something that has fundamentally changed about Bitcoin? One possibility is quantum. We've talked about that. I don't know if we had the quantum one pager out or whatever yet, but like, that's a real question. I don't think we should ignore it. But then there's this, to me, the only thing that makes me concerned is the unknown unknowns. Once you hit AGI, do they break the second law of thermodynamics with new physics? Do they figure out new form, like break cryptography in some way that we're not expecting with quantum or something else? I don't think those things are likely necessarily, but when you're racing through singularity, by definition, you don't know. And so I don't know, like, does it make sense for someone to hold their shiny rock just in case?
But then if you're going there though, then it's all, you got to question like
everything.
US dollar, treasuries, bonds, stocks,
100%.
All of that could blow up.
100%.
I mean, it's a totally different world.
And maybe something like gold.
So should stocks go to zero?
Well, it depends. I mean,
because
everyone except for the
people are saying, some people who are like view quantum or AGI as a threat. It's like, Bitcoin has no value because this could happen. Well, then I would argue, okay, stocks should have no value. They literally should be worth nothing. I mean, because we can come up with a scenario. It's possible.
That's possible too.
Because you've mentioned before in the show, like that money money is not needed anymore.
And to be clear,
abundancy. No one has a need for anything. So why do we need companies anymore? But all the companies will go to zero.
So, I mean, I think you have to seriously.
And who even cares about? Who cares if our Bitcoin goes to zero?
Exactly.
If we have abundancy.
We're all just friends.
If I have everything I want,
it's
in life, why do I care about my investment portfolio?
And that's great. And that's one positive way of looking at it.
So then that's not a reason to sell your Bitcoin, because in the world where money still matters, you want to hold Bitcoin, arguably. In a world where money doesn't matter, then who cares if I was or was not holding Bitcoin?
I agree with you 100%. To be fair, I think there is another argument though that says, if something happens during takeoff that we're not expecting with Bitcoin, but sadly, and this is the kind of, maybe less than ideal situation, stocks are going to get protected basically by violence, which would be the U.S. military.
Always has been.
That's the other answer. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying that's.
Well, in dollars, but I still don't see like the,
always has been.
Anyway,
Anyways, yeah, for another show. But
Anyway, if I think one of the things, one of the properties of Bitcoin that I think has been, you know, foundational, fundamental, like you cannot have Bitcoin without, is the Immaculate Conception.
Yeah.
And with bots and AGI potentially around the corner happening now, maybe during the show.
yeah, exactly.
You could imagine if there were a better way, you know, it's not, you could imagine that agents could come up with a new form of an Immaculate Conception that we have not imagined yet.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't, again, it's like it's super long tail risk. It's not a reason to really be concerned, but it's the kind of thing
it's not impossible.
I think it's worth just like
actually,
observing.
let me pull on the string because
Yeah,
it's really, I think it's really interesting. So, well, we don't know what this new fair distribution model would be, but if somehow it's fair, whatever that means, it's interesting to think about then. How do people get in? How much? What amounts? Etc. Meaning, like, oh, well, if person A has 10 times more money than person B, are they going to get 10 times more of this new thing or not? Is that fair or not? Or is fair that everyone in the world gets the same amount? In which case, it doesn't matter what your current assets are. So,
and what happens if you're born the day after the distribution?
And if, yeah, and then if
is that fair?
Permanent underclass is, I believe, what the kids are
then
called.
how would this new Immaculate Conception be introduced? I mean, it just seems fundamentally impossible that the whole world wakes up at the same time. So if it's like, well, 0.001% of people learn on day one, and then there's multiple waves of awareness, right? Well, the early awareness is going to still have this valuable Bitcoin, and they realize, oh shit, Bitcoin's going to zero because the AI created a way better system.
Yep.
And they sell their Bitcoin for this new one, and they accumulate a lot of that. So it still just seems like fundamentally there'll be waves, and whoever's early takes risk. But what if they're wrong?
Yeah.
And then they dumped all their Bitcoin. Oh shit.
Yeah,
And they shouldn't have, right? So it's the same kind of risk reward trade-off you get if you're an early adopter or laggard. So I don't see much different there.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like a thought experiment than like
Exactly.
actual concern. But
the other thought I had too, like if AGI comes up with the new money system that's way better, if we're in a world where AGI is kind of, if that new money is not good for humans but good for, it's just used by AI, then I would argue that humans will still value Bitcoin.
Two economies could emerge.
Because like, well, this money is optimized for us, not the AI, or it also works for the AI, but it's up for us. And also we have our private keys, and the AI can't access them, right? Where if the AI creates a new money,
we hope.
Well, if the AI creates its own money, then you live in a world where, I mean, can you have your private access and the AI doesn't have it? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what that money is.
All I know is, I mean, Vinny's giving us the alpha. It's time to just buy buckets of DRAM, boys. So